Community LEO Network podcast back, and I got another hot guest today. I'll explain exactly why it's going to be a hot guest, because it's going to be somewhat similar to when we had that interview with 000, a couple of them, as a matter of fact. This guy's going to bring a lot of knowledge, and it's going to be a lot of insight of what we see today. As a matter of fact, it's prevalent right now. It happens quite a bit. You see it all over the news, and most of us, we have some training on how to deal with it. But this man and his company offers. It might be more training than what you get with your agency, or it could reinforce the training you're getting. Either way, it'll be available. We're going to talk about it. It's going to be exciting. Even gives you, I believe, training to civilians as well. Again, we'll touch a little bit on that, but we're going to keep it focused on law enforcement. But first, I'm going to give a shout out and a big thank you to our sponsor, CSECO or SECO, Campbell Harris Security Equipment Company. Please go to their website, cseco.com. You won't be disappointed. They got the staff, they got the news articles, up-to-date stuff, and all the security needs you need. So just go on there, cseco.com. You won't be disappointed. But my guest, and I got lucky enough to pronounce his name right, Michael Azrate. And matter of fact, I got a drink out of it. So he's with Blue Line Guardian, and that website is actually guardiansonwatch.com. Correct me if I'm wrong, Michael.
Actually, it's Manny Arzate.
Oh, man, it said Michael in the email.
Oh,
you know what? But then again, I have been known not to be able to read, so let's call him Manny. Manny, my apologies. Manny,
it's all good, brother.
Now I lost my drink. Now I owe you one. Damn it, man. That's how my life works, my man.
It's a 1-for-1.
So what's how you doing, buddy? Everything good with you?
Everything's wonderful. I'm blessed. Thank you so much.
Manny has been on with the LAPD for what? You just celebrated 25 years, is that right?
25 years back in June.
And you don't look tired or nothing, man. How is that? LAPD, 25 years, still looking vibrant.
I love it. It's been a great organization. It's been a wonderful ride, a wonderful journey. It's funny. I've grown up with people in that department as if I would have grown up with them as if I was a kid. Because you start out, you know how it is in this kind of environment. You work with people. You both start out. You're brand new cops, and then you see them grow. They see you grow, and then you get to this point in your life. You're like, damn, 25 years already.
What the hell happened?
Yeah.
Where'd all this gray come from?
Yeah.
Hey, you did 25 years and looking happy. By my 13th year, I was like, I couldn't keep my eye from twitching. I was tired all the time. So God bless you, man, for real.
Oh, thank you so much, my friend.
But in that 25 years, did you stick? What did you do? You just stick a road dog the whole time. What was your background on that?
Oh my gosh, it's all over the place. Of course, you do your probation like anyone else. I did it at Newton Division, South Central. Then I went traffic in the Valley, San Fernando Valley. Then I worked the Hollywood Division for about 4.5 years. After that, I figured I had enough of fun with the celebrities there. Then I went down to Southeast Division in Watts, and
you got celebrities in Watts in South Central too. Remember?
Oh yeah, for
sure. They ghetto celebrities, and touch. You got them all over the place.
Ghetto superstars.
A legit question: What was more dangerous, South Central or Hollywood? That's what I want
to know. You want to know the real? I think
Hollywood.
Hollywood, because you don't know what you're gonna get.
Yeah,
if you're in South Central, you're in Watts, you're going to deal with, majority of the time is like gang shootings, all the gang culture and stuff like that. There's good people down there. Don't get me wrong. That's why we do it, for the folks down there that they want to raise a family, they got to scratch out a living, and that's just the cards they got dealt in life, and they got to live there and they got to work there. But you know what you're going into it. And in a place like Hollywood, you can lose your edge if you're not mindful and you get complacent, because there's been some pretty gnarly shootings there. A friend of mine that an old partner of mine, she was actually shot in the face, and her partner returned fire, and they put the suspect down and stuff. She's good now, and she's retired and she's recovered and all that. God bless her for it. But and she did nothing wrong tactically or nothing, but it's just, that's the thing, you don't know what you're walking into in Hollywood. You think you're going to get one thing, and here comes something else out of the blue, where if you're working in South Central, Watch, or whatever, your guard's already up because you're going to a gang shooting, you're going to a gang party, so you're already in a heightened sense of awareness that you don't want to drop your guard, and you want to pay attention to your tactics and who's coming up behind you. Versus in Hollywood, you have day-to-day citizens, business owners. Of course, you got your occasional celebrity sighting, but you also have your tourists, right? And they all look. There's no one size fits all kind of tourist, and so they come from different walks of life. And then you got people that come from all over the world that they want to make it big in Hollywood. This is their chance. They're waiters, or they work a little job because they think they're going to get discovered, and reality hits them. Yeah. And life hits them in the face, and it turns out that's not the case.
Well, man, you look good for all that work you did, man. I'm telling you. I do want to go back to what you said. I love anytime the subject comes up, and you said it was well said what you said, that South Central, you do it for the people who are just trying to live their life and so forth. You know what I'm saying? So it's not like you out hunting. You know what I mean? You're doing it for the safety of others, and that's heck, LEO Network, the training, making the training available, and so we can do the job better. We're not out there trying to, you know what I'm saying? I like to bring that up because it dispels that rumor that, oh hell, police.
Yeah.
You said it well. You were in South Central, and you did it for the people who are trying to survive in South Central, and I like that, and I appreciate that. Thank you for your service on that.
Oh, thank you for that.
Yeah. So you put in all this work from Hollywood, from Sequence to Chuck Taylor's, right? Hollywood to South Central, and now, you with Blue Line Guardian, which does with its crisis and active shooter, which we're going to touch a lot on active shooter, right? Because it seems like every Thursday something's going on, right?
Right.
So how did you fall into that? Is that something you were already doing, or you've been doing in your career already, and you're like, man, this is important. Let me, get into that, and then your role in Blue Line Guardian.
So where the concept came for me is that when the whole anti-police rhetoric, the Sandman came up, and all that, and law enforcement across the nation, it doesn't matter whether you're a small department or a large department. I noticed it was we as law enforcement collectively took a step back because we didn't want to step on any toes. We didn't, we were tired of being portrayed negatively in the media, but we couldn't even win for losing, right?
Yeah,
even when we stood down, we still have people out there that were haters, and it was pretty hard for me to see. But what I noticed is that the communities were taking a big hit. First, it happened in Brentwood and Beverly Hills area, where the affluent people were going out and they were getting mobbed and they were getting robbed street side, and there wasn't a cop in sight. So that started taking place, and I started saying, somebody's got to do something about that. And then you saw it more rampantly across the nation, right? And then couple that with a couple of incidents of active shooters that happened, where you're like, wow, we're like, I'll give you an example. The Uvalde incident, and nothing against those guys. I wasn't there. I'm not criticizing their tactics. It's just the way.
Let's pause there, Manny, real quick, right? So anything we talk about here, I say it all the time, so it has nothing to do with you. I've said it a lot with Mr. Jason Ortiz with 000. These aren't critiques. These are things that we see, and it's all building blocks onto the product that you're presenting and the training that you provide. So we'll throw that out there to make sure they understand that is your purpose, right? So Uvalde, let's talk about it. Yeah, go ahead.
So I feel that as law enforcement, we dropped the ball on that big time, and that cost, and that wasn't the cost of money; it's the cost of life.
Mm-hmm. So break it down. So specifics, like what you're seeing there that people might not know about.
Well, let me backtrack a little bit.
Sure.
In the beginning, immediately after 9/11, we were trained in immediate action rapid deployment. That's known as active shooter, right? Mm-hmm. Because we were seeing terrorist attacks or style attacks across countries, here in our own nation, right, with the San Bernardino shooting and all that.
Yeah.
And we were always taught in this case, and I remember a Marine in one of my classes when I was a young officer, or said we attack to the objective, right? We're not out there hunting, we're not out there to kill, but we have to stop that threat.
Right,
and
exactly.
Stopping that threat means that you have to use lethal force, because that person's intent on killing as many people and is causing as much damage as possible in a very short amount of time.
Yeah, you're not gonna slap them. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, you can't talk them down with harsh language.
Exactly.
So our goal as law enforcement overall, we were tracking online. We were going, we're stopping, a lot of bad guys out there, and we were, we had units that were following up on things that were homegrown terrorists that we were acting on. However, as the sentiment started changing, things happened. The anti-police rhetoric, we took a step back. It seemed like we were almost afraid to do our own job, and there's people out there that still depend on us. They were still picking up the phone and dialing 911, and they were expecting a police vehicle, whether it's black and white or white or whatever the color the police car is, to show up and handle that problem for those people that are having a bad day. And consequently, because of it, you have an incident like Uvalde where there was no action. There really wasn't. I mean, you have a couple of stories of here and there where a mother jumped the fence, against police, direction, because she had to go rescue her kids because nobody was going to do it. And that's pretty sad to say, the fact that you got pictures, and you can't deny it because it's out there. These pictures are where there's officers standing in the hallway, and one guy is, going up and he's wiping his hands down with sanitizer while the shooting's ongoing, and they're in a school hall, and they're one of the hallways of the school.
Did they ever speak on that?
I don't know enough to tell you. I've combed the internet for any kind of lessons learned, and it just talks a lot about the lawsuits that came of it, and in that manner, but nothing that they ever did. Like if there's an after action report out there, I haven't seen it. I would love to see it. I'd love to read it to see where did we fall short on that, right? So moving forward, this is where I'm at with that, with Blue Wing Guardian. I go, you know what, that's enough. I have to do something. I'm still in the business of saving lives. It's just the way I was brought up. Those are my values, my Christian values, and I'm not Bible thumping anybody out there, whether you're a believer or non-believer. It's just
Manny,
a burden that's in my heart.
You're allowed to talk about it, bud. You're allowed to
I appreciate that.
Right.
It's a burden in my heart that drives me, gives me passion in saving lives, right? But at the same time, how do I save lives? It's just not me by myself. It's a team of people. We were talking earlier about my website where it talks about from A through Z, civilian, private schools and all this. It's because I have a team of people in our company that come with a vast background, training experience. I'll give you an example. Veronica, she's a doctor. She's got a doctor of education in organizational leadership, right?
I saw that. Yeah.
That's one type of skill set, and she's good at what she does. She teaches at a university. She's versed in a lot of things. I mean, this lady is smarter than I would venture to say than both of you and me put together. I mean, I
guarantee you, if I'm in the equation, a little bit.
I mean, and then I got Nick Malazzo. He's a SWAT sergeant, but he's also got a very strong canine background. I got Mark Jackson. He's another SWAT sergeant, but he's the most senior SWAT sergeant in the whole LAPD.
Oh, okay.
And he teaches his passion is crisis negotiation training. In other words, hostage rescue, but negotiating with the barricaded suspect.
See, I love that stuff right there.
Yeah,
it's talking about verbal judo type stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think it saves a lot of lives. Just before there was a time when it was just like, okay, we're done talking, we're going to kick in the door and go for it, right? And now, to the SWAT department, the SWAT team and LAPD, to their very credit, a lot of it is just talking, and they work it and work it and work it. They'll go hours before they decide to deploy any kind of CS or OC gas on the individual. Because they're really trying to get that person to weigh their options, and bring the incident to a peaceful resolution. So Mark teaches a crisis negotiator school. I attended it. I got certified in it, and I'll tell you, even in day-to-day interactions, it's worth its weight in gold. because you learn how to talk to people. Or if you learn how to talk to people before, this just makes you a little better and gives you one more tool to add to your tool bag.
We had somebody on there who that was part of their training as well, and it was fascinating because techniques, but the reasoning behind the techniques, like, so that whoever's they're negotiating with is acting on pure emotion, right? And you never make a good decision when it's on emotion, right? So they talked about finding a way to eliminate emotion, you know what I mean, and implement rationalization, and then and only then can they start working, progressing towards freeing or diffusing the situation. Am I way off there? What you guys are talking about?
No, you're right on the money. And I like to plug my buddy's book in, because he's one of also the operators and also the instructors in that school.
Yeah, say the title clearly so they all hear it.
And I'll put it up so everybody can see it. It's Negotiating Like Lives Are on the Line. This is by John Poltz. I don't know if you can see the name
Negotiating
there.
Like Lives Are on the Line. Yeah,
right. That's
there
it.
It is perfect. Right, leave it up there. Right, just like that.
I'll put it up
perfect.
there.
Yeah, there you go. I see it. Beautiful.
Little shameless plug for my friend. I told him, I go, hey, outstanding book, John. I love everything you had to say in it, because it's true. John and I did probation together as rookie cops some 25 years ago in Newton Division, South Central.
Mm-hmm.
John is he's a wonderful warrior, wonderful human being, great guy, very humble. If he sat next to you, you wouldn't know who he is unless you started talking to him. And I said, hey, this is John, the guy who was telling you about. I'll tell you a quick story about him really quick. We were P1s. We're going to a call of a prowler, and the house, I guess somebody was in the house, but it was the resident calling us, and they felt that somebody was trying to open their back door or their back window. Well, they had a bunch of dogs in the front yard, and I'm talking like Rottweilers and pit bulls and stuff. I had 3 or 4 dogs like that. John was the first one to go in the yard with all those dogs in there, and his presence alone got the dogs to back off, and then I followed after him, and a bunch of others of us followed into him so we can clear the yard and make sure that nobody was hiding the lady's back, tool shed. Yeah. I mean, that's the kind of presence that guy has, and he's so chill about it, so.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, man, imagine if it's you and I. If I went in first, it'd be like throwing a pork chop in there. They'd all attack me, and then you would have just slid in there. I'd have done the job for you, but it would have hurt.
Yeah,
good for him, man. Good on him, man. I'll read that book if he's got that kind. If his presence alone has dogs backing the hell down there, hey, whatever, good on.
And then we're like little Chihuahuas. I mean, they have Rottweilers and pit bulls and big dogs.
Well, it's South Central, right? I mean, isn't it the law? Isn't it a city ordinance you have to own a pit bull in South Central?
Something like that. Yeah, they call them ghetto elk.
Ghetto elk. God damn it, that was great. Hey, look here. Let me ask you this. So,
go ahead.
What's your? Did you start Blue Line Guardian, or did you find it and became a part of it? How did that come about?
So I started Blue Line Guardian myself.
You're owner and operator. Gotcha.
I am, sir. Yes.
All right.
So talking about that background of the team of guys that I got, and and all that. And I also want to mention I got Randy Rangel, female certified instructor. He does all the emergency action plans, large events, A through Z when it comes to incident command system. Mike Glenn, Metro, Mayor's Detail, Dignitary Protection, VPOTUS, POTUS visits and all that. And he's also EMT. So I have that team, and taking a page out of Tim Grover. I don't know if anybody who knows Tim Grover is. He worked with Michael Jordan back in the day as a trainer for his kinesiology, not teaching him how to play basketball, but how to move his body a little better to get him around the court and avoid injury. Tim Grover said one thing: never be the smartest guy in the room. And that's one thing I learned being a watch commander on the LAPD is you can't be the smartest guy in the room, but you sure can know what your resources are and who's the expert in what. So when I came up with Blue Line Guardian, I was looking at the active shooting, all the street side robberies and all that. It really struck a chord with me, especially with Uvalde saying, "Hey, something's got to get done with this. We can't have this, and I got to create something that bridges the gap for both the law enforcement side of the house and for the civilian side of the house, as far as this kind of type of an incident." Because you would think there is a lot, and people will sit down and say, "Oh yeah, we've been trained," and I go, "Well, what's your training consist of?" "Oh, we sat down and watched a 2-hour video," and I'm like, "Okay, that's good familiarization." but that's not training. It's like saying, yeah, I go to the gym because I watch people work out. No, you got to get in there. You got to lift those weights. You got to diet. You got to have a plan, and you got to, if anything, you got to work with a personal trainer if you're very serious about, learning how to lift those weights correctly.
That's what, that's all. Well, let's take a look. Let's take a look at the website. I'm gonna see if I can get up here. You tell me if you see it, and then you can navigate me through it. You know what I mean? And let's take a look at it.
Yeah.
Give me a sec here.
Yeah, no worries.
And I'll see if I can't get it up here. And there it is here. All right, can you see that?
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. So beautiful website, by the way, I meant to tell you.
Oh, thank you so much.
Easy to navigate. Let's go to the home here. There it is there. I mean, that looks like Men in Black. Men and women in black.
Oh, that's my web developer, Orange Web, out of city of Orange in Orange County. Those guys do a fantastic job at setting up websites. So I got to give credit where credit is due.
Gotcha.
If it was me, it'd be like the page would be all crooked and everything. And
you got well, I love this here. Integrity is everything. So tell me how you want me to navigate this, what you want the people to see, what you want the law enforcement to see, so they can,
So I guess let me see. We can go. Let me scroll down because I got it.
Let's try. Let's start with well, you mentioned before. Whatever gets us to. Remember, we were talking, and you said that because you touched on 9/11, and you're like, why do we have to be reactive? Why can't we be preventative, right?
Right.
And I assume that's huge in your law enforcement portion here. Well, look here, there's got security, safety consulting, emergency preparedness, earthquake, workplace violence, all right, active shooter awareness training. What else you got in here? Multi-assault counterterrorism action capability, MACTAC.
That's correct.
I prefer to say that. That's fun. That's fun to say.
Yeah, MACTAC. Yeah.
Personal dignitary protection, residential security, surveillance, counter surveillance, business security, threat assessment, firearms handling. Oh, okay. So you're a range guy too, no?
I got a couple of connections, a couple of guys that are range certified instructors that we'll plug you in with, and if you want to make it like a corporate event for your company or for your agency, we'll do that. Simulations, so
which is huge,
right? It's huge. So let me back up a little bit as far as that. So for the law enforcement side of things, I'm putting a course together for active shooter training where it's multi-agency and communicative. In other words, we work on our communications between agencies because one agency might, for example, LAPD, we use code 6 as going 10-8, right? 10-4, we use Roger instead of 10-4, which is the acknowledgement. 1099 is a help call. We just call it a help call.
Hey, it's funny, and I'm glad you mentioned that because as a CHP, it was hilarious. You got two agencies, and what do cops do? We speak in code, right?
Right.
So I'm speaking in code. He's looking at me like I'm speaking Korean. He's speaking in code. I'm looking at him like he's speaking, Spanish. I don't speak Spanish.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get you.
It made damn sense, but that's what we're used to. So that's hilarious. Anyway, continue. I just had to talk about that because that was
no. That's cool. No. It's
you know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
I'm like code 6. Where's the weed at? And really, I'm going to. It's hilarious. Yeah.
So because of the Uvalde, going back to that, they had different agencies that responded, and nobody would move, right? Nobody was moving one way or the other. Mm-hmm. But I've noticed that's happened throughout law enforcement. Whenever a major incident happens, when I was a boot sergeant in Southwest, there was a homicide-suicide shooting on the campus of UCLA, where a student went in there, killed his professor, and killed himself. To this day, I still don't know what the details were, but then that generated a slew of radio calls that came out of there, right? Active shooter here, active shooter there. And what happened was, God bless everybody for going to it. UCLA PD got overwhelmed immediately by all the responding resources, because in that part of Southern California, in the LA area, not only do you have UCLA PD, but you also have the federal building there. So you had Department of Homeland Security responding, you had LAPD, you have the sheriff, you have the sheriff's department, the CHP. So you have all those entities going, and they were all self-deploying, but nobody was talking to anybody.
That's tough.
And
That's
so
that creates more chaotic there,
right.
Yeah,
So you either got one the extreme where we over deploy, or you have one where you don't deploy at all, or if maybe one or two at all. So the course that I'm building on and I'm designing is where we get different agencies involved and working, and we just speak English. Take out the codes. Like, hey, this building, this color, the building with the number 1 at this school. That's where I saw the threat. The male Hispanic or in a gray polo shirt with a blue logo on his, the left side of his chest. That's your threat. As opposed to saying, hey, we're going to be on the side 1 of this building, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, side 1 is great if you understand the tactics with between if your agency, right? But it could be the A side for some other agencies, or it could be the south side or whatever, right? But if you say, hey, this side, the front, where the front door is, that's where we're going to go in through, right? And I'm just dumbing it down really just to say, like, hey, here's how the communication portion is going to break out. So the first part of the class for active shooter is that for, talking about statistics, things that have happened, workplace violence, that kind of thing. Because there's 2 places mostly where you get your active shooters for the most part. It's either at a school, but the majority of your shootings are at our workplace. And I wanted to cite something that I have with me here on my own computer. And this is according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. 392 U.S. workers were workplace homicide victims in 2020. And so of those victims who died from homicide, 81% were men and 44% were aged 25 to 44. So 392 incidents, and it goes in even further as to what the numbers are, and it gets, how many injuries there were and stuff like that. So that tells you right there that when you go to work, there's more of a propensity for you to come across an active shooter than it is in, of course, a mall, you want to pay attention, but, to another, public gathering place, you'll get those, and the media will cover those, and, they'll get played 24/7. That makes you think that it's happening all over the place. But when you look at the numbers, it happens mostly at the workplace or at the schools. And so for law enforcement, we're going into these cold. We've never set foot in these premises before. And sometimes you have these smaller departments that, you might have a 1 in 3, in other words, 1 sergeant and 3 field units, and then 2 of them are already stuck at a domestic. So it's just you and the sergeant going to that call, and you're hoping that you get mutual aid from the agency next door to you. Right. And so how do we make sure that we're all in the same sheet of music when we're going to go attack to the objective and stop that threat? Right. And on a side note, and along those lines, this is why I offer it to civilian corporate clients in that manner, because they should have I believe that they should have a plan in place to say, hey, if this were to happen, this is going to be the contact person for the first responders. If that person gets hurt or, they get downed, this is going to be the backup person that's going to meet up with the police, and they're going to be the pathfinder for the officers responding and saying, hey, this is where the threat is, instead of you having to try and figure your way around until you know where you're going. It's like going to a high school. I always told my officers, if we ever go to a shooting at a school, who's the first person we want to talk to? If you guys would say, well, the principal or one of the teachers, and I would go, wouldn't you want to get the janitor, because he's got the keys to every single door in that facility, and he knows that place like the back of his hand. Well, that would be the same case with a corporate business, where you're at a factory or at a corporate office. Somebody who knows that place very well, they're not going to be your point person, but they're going to tell you, hey, if you go through that door, you're going to end up back at the parking lot, or if you go through that door, that's exactly where you need where we saw the threat at. And then that person just hangs back, with a security detail to stop that threat and mitigate that liability.
You find the janitor and the 3 kids who ditches class the most. That's what you find.
Yeah.
All right, Johnny. How do I get to the track?
Or how do I get everybody out of here? How'd you sneak out so I can sneak everybody else out of here the way you snuck out, and we'll go.
Yeah,
we'll flank the suspect.
You ever find yourself? You ever think you might find yourself Blue Line Guardian getting an umbrella policy or SOP or MOU of tactics that the brass of LA sheriffs, LAPD, all of them can receive and agree on, and now you can just train the agencies and the masses. And I mean, you think, is that foolish to even think of, or is that something that heck might be a good idea? And now, no matter who's going on scene to an active shooter, they will be on the same page. They will be speaking English, and so on and so forth. You ever see, or is that already happening with you?
Well, because they're like the two big kids in the block in this part of the world. We do our own training, right? LAPD trains their own people. LASO trains their own people, and that's pretty much it. And they never intermingle between themselves. Where I'm trying to go with this, as far as the umbrella is concerned, and I love the way you think about it, because clearly I'm not the only one thinking about this. So it's refreshing to know that somebody else is also along the tracking with me with this. Is I'm trying to create the program and the training curriculum to be post-certified. And for those that don't know, it's a Peace Officer Standards Training certified for California.
Yes. Yes. Okay.
And so because of it, once I get it post-certified, then I can get my focus will be on the smaller to medium-sized agencies that don't have the training cadre or can't afford to have a training cadre particular to their department because of deployment needs, right? A lot of the smaller departments, they have collateral duties. You'll have one guy that works patrol but also works SWAT, another guy who's worked detectives, but now it's his rotation back to go back to patrol to backfill because there's people that are going on vacation or what have you. So those agencies really they wear a lot of hats within the agencies. And where LAPD is like, if you're a patrol guy, you can be a patrol guy for the rest of your life and never work a specialized unit, and that's fine. As long as you go to your required training and you meet your post curriculum hours for the 2 years that you have to be certified by California State Post.
Yeah, it's just kind of, I mean, you never. My point is, I mean, I remember thinking when it was mandatory to go to active shooter training, right? Mandatory. Everybody, because you never know when you're going to be on duty, and oh hell, they're shooting at the mall. You get what I'm saying? And
right.
I was thinking, I'm glad we all got to do this. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
right.
It got a little like, what'd you just say? When they said, if you hear gunshots, damn the wait and run in and run towards the gunshots. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, but what I'm saying is, I know what I meant by the question earlier is, there's, look at it at the sports angle. You got all of us playing baseball.
Right.
You got this team, this team, this team, this team, this team. But then at any given time, you got to put a team together and send them to the Olympics. And now they all got to play together, right?
Right.
So damn the Eagles and them, all that stuff. That now they're on the same. So they're on the same team, regardless, right? But even if so what I'm saying is, a call comes out, you're going to have every agency, whether they're going just for the excitement or they're going because they're there. You know what I'm saying? But
right.
When everybody has to know it, what's going on, and that's what I meant by, like, some sort of umbrella. Will do you think they'll ever find a way to put the ego aside or be humble and just say, hey, there's a reason why they were doing this?
No, I think so, and that's why I'm trying to start with the smaller agencies, because if I can show that the proof is in the pudding, right? For example, Newport, Seal Beach PD, and Huntington Beach PD, right? Just as an example, those are beach city police departments, right? Mm-hmm. If they can work together, which they probably do, and I know they do because they have a mutual aid SWAT team. But if their patrol officers can come together and they work together, which I know they do in certain aspects, but when it comes to the training and then the response of a critical incident like this, right? Then the larger departments like LAPD and the LA Sheriff's Department, an example to the UCLA shooting, then they'll understand what everybody's roles are. So we're not, exacerbating the problem when it comes to that kind of an incident. Because here's what's coming down the pike is that 2028 we're looking at the Olympics in LA.
Oh, is that back in 2028 already? What was the last time? 1984. Something like that.
Yeah, something like that. 1984 Olympics. Yeah.
Yeah. So
So 2028, it'll be the last year that I'm with the department, but the surrounding communities are going to be vastly impacted, by either, especially by tourists, but just by people that just want to come to, toward LA, and because of it, you're also going to have tourism probably go through the roof because they want to go check out the California beaches, and they want to go check out Disneyland and places like that, So if I can get the smaller agencies to partake with this, which a lot of them are on board, by the way,
good.
Maybe the bigger agencies will understand, like, hey, we have a critical incident from this corner to this corner, just, proverbially speaking, this, we'll handle this zone, you handle the outer zone, or you handle from that corner to that corner, and now it breaks down. But but for the most part, my concern is, again, going to the smaller agencies, because I think that's where it happens the most. Like, for example, Alhambra, we had the shooting at the Asian ceremony that they had there, right? Shooter shows up, shoots 10 people that are at a dance class, and moves on, and he finally gets wrestled down by a young man and says, "Not today," and he's unarmed, and he fights with the guy and fights the gun off of him, right? But how long did that have to happen and and go for before police response got there? It's nothing against Alhambra PD. It's just that this guy was mobile, so we don't know where he's at. You're trying to find him. But if we get the message out there to tell people, hey, sometimes it's not just run, hide, and fight. Sometimes it might turn out to be that the only option you got is to fight.
Yeah.
And that's it. Or you might have to run and you got nowhere to hide. Well, guess what? You have to turn around and fight. And so how do we set up that? But on the other side of the coin is, for law enforcement, is what happens when you have an incident like that in a smaller city and you're already taxed with all the units that you're going to be able to use. For LAPD or the sheriff's department, you have all kinds of units you can draw from to set up a large perimeter. I mean, if you looked at the North Hollywood shooting, back in the 90s, I mean, you had all LAPD units there from all over the city that were, cording off areas and setting up the perimeter. The CHP shut down the 170 freeway because rounds were flying over the freeway. But, we had the resources for it. But if you look at a small department, they wouldn't be able to do that, So you want to give them the best fighting edge that they can, and then have these smaller departments, meet up and say, hey, we've all trained together. We've all gotten the same type of training, and we're speaking the same language. Once this is over, you can go back to saying our 10 codes or whatever it is that our department and talks like. But in the meantime, David Ross and Manny Arzate are going to go downrange, guns a-blazing, and we're going to be just speaking in plain terms. Hey, bro, I'm going to the right. Okay, I'm going to the right with you. I'm going to the left. Hey, I'm going to hold right here.
Wait, you're right or my right? Which one? God damn it, I don't even know where I'm going. Hey, but do you so my good friend Jason Ortiz out of Jersey, which, by the way, I'm gonna get permission to get you two on at the same time. He's real big on, it's training just for preservation of life and better handle stressful situations. You know what I mean? Just to keep your wits about you. And he would say he'd say people would come to these trainings and not the most humility, right? Ego driven. Do you find that too in dealing with this? I mean, you got the person that lives for this type of stuff. Do they come in there for the most part? They're receiving the info, or do you have to Do you have to kind of talk them down off the horse real quick and then massage them a little bit so everybody's learning? Do you find that at all?
It's a give and take with that, because you're dealing with people's personalities. And I'll just touch on something really quick. I'm a Navy veteran, and I worked on jets when I was back in the Navy. And in aviation, there's one of many things, but one of the big things that they talk about there the most is arrogance kills.
Yeah, man.
Arrogance will get you killed. There is no room for arrogance in aviation, because if somebody comes and double checks on your work, they call it quality assurance. It's not because they don't trust the work that you do. It's to make sure that job was done correctly and we checked off all the boxes, because there's human life that's going to get in that aircraft, and they're depending on you to take off and come back.
Yeah, you can't pull over on the shoulder like a patrol car. No, there are no shoulders, man. I mean, you in the air. That's it. You know what I'm saying? You drop, you drop. That's
yeah,
it.
not at Mach 1.5 at 45,000 feet. You know,
I
as
mean,
you're,
Tom Cruise could do it, you know, but that's about it.
So I've taken that mentality with me throughout my life, and even when I became a police officer. And there's a lot of cops like that are very humble about it. And even when I was a probationary sergeant out in Southwest and South Central Division, or Southwest Division in South Central, um, we would have an incident where we had a perimeter or a following or whatever, and I would make it a point to debrief, because that's the way I was trained. We always debrief everything that we do, even if it takes just a couple minutes. It's not an hour debrief. And I would tell my guys, I said, hey, no rank, no ego. I'm not Sergeant Arzate right now. Right now I'm Manny. What did I do? What did I do wrong? What could I have done better? And this is what I think I did. I did right. This is what I think I could have done better. Let me have it. Be honest with me, brutal. It's not that I'm going to hold this against you by being honest. And some guys would say, hey, Sarge, next time, hey, let us do this and that. Or, hey, Sarge, we like what you did here. If you could just do a little more of this and a little less of that, well, it makes our job that much easier. And then we'd go around the circle, even including the rookies, to hear what they had to say, right? And that's how you make yourself better, because being humble lets you learn. If you have an ego, and even the guy, my friend Mark Jackson, right? Most senior sergeant of the LAPD SWAT always says, check your ego at the door. You're only as good as be humble. You're only as good as your last incident. That's it.
Boy, I tell you right now, 90% of the officers watching this right now are going, you should have a training on that. You know what I mean? You a unicorn, brother.
I don't know about that. I know a lot of good guys out there. I
know. I don't doubt they are out there. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
It's it's rare to have a sergeant say, "All right, tell me how I messed up." You know what I mean? And matter of fact, it's so rare the officer would be like, "Man, shut
up." But you know what? I learned that from watching. But I learned that from watching another sergeant. From here, that's a precedent that was set up, and I go, you know what? When I grow up, meaning, when I get to their position, I want to be just like that, because that's a strong leader. That's a good leader, and I want to aspire to be a good leader. And and even now, it's like I think there's so much room for me to improve, so much room for me to learn. But that keeps you hungry. That puts a fire in your belly to always want to make yourself better, and not just in the professional sense, but also in your personal life.
No doubt about it. What's your rank now?
I'm a sergeant.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm still a sergeant, but I'm what they call a sergeant 2, which is what you would have as an assistant watch commander. In a division or whatever. But right now I work under audit division for the LAPD, and we just audit the policy. That's all we do. A lot of paper shuffle. My knees aren't what they used to be.
Policy. I read all of my policy, every last word.
Yeah, so did I.
I read every damn thing 3 times.
Yeah.
Man, I didn't even read it when I was studying for the sergeant's test. That's why I didn't pass it.
Oh my God!
I don't like reading.
I've taken a liking to reading in the last few years, to be honest with you. And
have you seen TV? It's way better. Way better.
I think my mom was right, though. I think that stuff will rot your brain. You watch too much TV. That's why I think I enjoy reading a good book every now and then.
Bro, listen to me. I read one book up until last year. One book in my life, Tales of the Fourth Grade Nothing, by Judy Bloom in the 4th grade. It's because I absolutely had to. And now the only reason I read books is because I do audiobooks. That's it. And I still hate that. Can't stand it. No way.
Well, I bet. Well, give me an opportunity, brother. I'll send some good books down your way that you'll probably enjoy reading.
You know what a good book? You know what makes a good book?
What's that?
A movie.
Yeah.
Turn it into a movie, and then I'll watch it, and then you just tell me how it differs. That's what makes a good book. I tell you, I'll read a book if you can bind it, and make the pages, letter nice and big, and then throw that book in the trash and give me the DVD. That's the book. Hey,
I'll tell you what. I'll tell you about the book. How about that?
beautiful, beautiful.
Uh,
I listen to audiobook. I listen to an audiobook.
well, then I'll audibly tell you all about it.
Okay, fantastic. Because my mind wanders like nobody's business. I mean, like like this, that, and that. Did I go to McDonald's twice yesterday? You know what I mean? It's just like I would just lose it. But tell me, Manny, what haven't I asked you that you really wanted to get out there and talk about? Whether it's part of your training or whether it's something you saw, or is there anything that you seen lately? Like I know there's a shooting at the White Sox game yesterday, and got Las Vegas. I mean, heck, we got a smorgasbord of active shooter. What haven't I talked about that you really want to get down on?
If I had to say anything, I think that if I can make a call of action to law enforcement in general, and I'm not talking to the everyday street officer that's out there, pushing the sled and responding to that call. It's more to the managers and the upper echelon where we sacrifice, I guess, perception for training. It's like, oh, we don't want to appear too aggressive or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say there is something to the way a command presence of the American police officer has diminished. Because years ago, when I was a rookie cop, brand new, younger police officer stuff, saw the story about a state trooper, or I think it was a chippy that may have done a traffic stop. There was a parolee in the car with a gun, and I think he had a buddy in the car, and they were planning on ambushing the officer. So what happened was, because the way he got out, the way he looked sharp in his uniform, the way he approached them, and he was an L car. He approached tactically. He had his cover on, and he looked sharp. And whether or not where your agency wears the cover, it doesn't matter. It's just the point being that his uniform was sharp from top to bottom, and you could just tell that the guy was squared away. So they ended up apprehending these two guys and everything. And they asked him, "Hey, how come you had the drop on him? How come you didn't?" And he goes, "Because the way he looked." Because the way he appeared, he looked like.
Well, they love to tell that story. They love to tell that story.
But it's no nonsense.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I do. I know what you're talking about. That was a chippy, I think. yeah, because
that was you.
No, that wasn't me. But the chippies, they love to tell that story. They love to tell that story.
But it tells you everything that, as far as command presence, but the way in relationship to training, though, even though it may appear that we train aggressively, well. Yeah, because we want the bad guys to know we're not going to mess around. When it comes to the preservation of life, including theirs, we're not going to take that as a second thought, and just kind of like not take it serious. Is that we want to preserve life, and sometimes if we can, we want to preserve the suspect's life. Do things happen sometimes outside of our control? Yeah, absolutely. You work in this job long enough, and you see good friends of yours get hurt, get shot, and innocent people get killed, lose their lives, and because that suspect, they're the ones calling the shots, and no pun intended with that, but that's just the way it works out in law enforcement. We don't dictate that.
Well, let me ask you. Okay, I'm gonna put you on the spot here, okay? Because I like what you're saying. We talked about, you obviously do the job for the right reasons, which is big. That was my belief. Do the job for the right reasons. Do it with a purpose. You know what I mean? Don't just do it just to do it, right? You don't arrest people just to arrest them, so on and so forth. So I like where your head's at. So I'm going to put you in the spot here because you mentioned people holding back a little bit because of perception, so on and so forth. So now I'm shipping you to Chicago, okay? And you're a room full of officers, because what's the number one thing they talk about Chicago officers, right? They're saying these dudes are just like, they'll respond like if it's dire, you know what I'm saying? They just stop responding. They stop putting it because of the whole perception, right? It's like, I mean, heck, you might as well just take the gun out of their hands or whatever the case. They won't go hands on. They won't do this. They won't do their job, right? What are you telling them to get them back to, hey, you have to, because otherwise it's dangerous, right? For you and everybody and the people who deserve to live, so to speak. What are you telling them?
Well, it's not a one answer and it's done. It's kind of a multi-pronged approach, because what is their management telling them?
Right.
what is the sentiment from the politicians in the city? And I'm not saying that I base my work and my work ethic, and on what a politician says. But here's the thing, though, is the leadership, meaning the chief of police for that department, are they proactive? Are they supportive of their officers, or is it just a lip service? You see what I'm saying? Because a lot of it, if officers are out there doing their job the best way that they can within the policy of their respective department, or within the confines of the law for their state that they're in, and they're still getting hammered, it's very difficult to want to motivate yourself to go out there and do a job that you swore an oath to do, when the very agency that you represent is the one that's eating its own it eats its own life, and so it's really hard. So what I would say in one way is have a conversation with the management saying, hey, if you want a better agency, you got to train them. And you got to be very clear about what your expectations are. And you have to show up to the roll calls, and you have to show up out there with them. And I'm not saying lead the charge in a gunfight or a pursuit or anything. That's not what I'm talking about. Just be out there, look at what they're dealing with. And
or at least back them, right? I mean,
right.
When they try to dump on them, at least stand up and put your chest out and say, no, they did the right thing here. And
correct.
Whether you believe it or not, right?
Right. I mean, but at the same time, if you're out there and you've seen what the officers are dealing with, it gives you a bit. I guess it gives you a talking point to come across, because you saw it with your own two eyes. You saw it for yourself.
Yeah.
As opposed to like you're sitting behind a desk and you're coming up with these unrealistic expectations of what they should be doing. They should be stopping crime, but yet not being forceful. Well, you're sending mixed messages. I mean, you either want to stop crime, which, if you look at the belt of a police officer, it does not match what the fire department carries with them. We have a magazine pouch with extra rounds of ammunition. We have a gun on our hip, whether you're right-handed or left. You have a baton ring for your straight stick or your PR-24, which is a side-handle baton. You have pepper spray. You have handcuffs to restrain. All those things are for combatives and for restraint. The first weapon we have is our mouth, right? But even before that, it's our mindset, right? Before you leave the house, the night before, you say, hey, this is how I want to come to work, and this is the mindset. But at the same time, though, you got officers out there that are doing God's work every single day, but they're just getting pummeled by their own departments. And then the department sits back and asks, like, why aren't they going out there and handling these calls? Well, because you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. Well, then I'd rather be down for not, right? Yeah. And so that's a really hard one to say, like, well, this is what I would tell the officers, and let's rah, and let's go out there and let's stop crime. But at the same time, you got to look at, the core issue is like, well, are they getting support by the community and their own department? And I'll give you another example. I have a friend of mine, Rex Ingram. He's a chief of police at Caldwell Police Department in Caldwell, Idaho. They love him. They love him, and the cops love him. The cops love, the community loves the officers, because there's such a strong bond there between the leadership, the officers, and the community. It's a perfect little triangle there, because those folks there, they don't want crime, but the officers also understand that the folks, they respect their community, and the community respects them, and it's a very good relationship there.
Well, and I'll flip the card on you. Then you got that agency in Minneapolis. I don't know if you saw that whole shebang resigned, done. Right. That was just last week, I think.
Yeah, no, it did. I saw that news article, and that just goes to show you. I mean, you beat a dog enough, and you kick him down enough, one or two things is going to happen, or they're both going to happen. He's either going to bite you and run away, or he's going to run away, and that's it. They're done.
A person that feels unappreciated will give them a version of themselves just to survive.
Absolutely.
And you don't want that, because their words are sharp. They'll be deceitful and so on and so forth. And it's all based on being unappreciated. So you don't want a version of anybody, especially if it's a version just to survive. You know what I mean? And been there, done that. You know what I mean? And it doesn't work out well for either party. So I'm assuming that it's similar there in Minneapolis there, where as opposed to the other card in which say Idaho, where you feel appreciated. You don't even have to ask them to do squat. They just go and do it, right?
Right.
Dig
You know,
that.
and they're pretty busy there. I mean, they're starting to get gangsters up there. I mean, Mexican mafia type, deal going up there and all that kind of stuff.
Idaho, really?
Yeah. I mean,
Brutal, man. Brutal.
well, crime travels, man. You know
no
how it
doubt
is.
about it.
I mean, you have the corridor that goes all the way from the border of Texas and Mexico straight up to Chicago. With the dope runs, and everything else, and guns and everything else. I mean, so everybody knows. I mean, we just don't talk about it enough because it suddenly on one side or the other of the aisle, whether it's left or right, it becomes a political issue. Well, it shouldn't be a political issue. This is a public safety issue. If the police in one country don't do their job, that's mildly interesting to me. Unless I'm visiting, I'm hoping that, but I digress. For me, it's more about public safety and saving lives. Going back to what you asked me earlier about if I had to say something, and I was talking about the call to action. It's about training. We kind of got knocked on our heels as law enforcement collectively because of the perception and the way politicians and news that we were beaten down like pretty much like a dead horse to a bloody pulp, right? As far as us, doing things and as far as training, preparing ourselves, making ourselves better officers, because we didn't want to project ourselves as being overly aggressive. But here's one thing I will say to you. If we don't train and we don't prepare ourselves, there's still people out there that depend on us, that expect us to show up when they are having the worst day of their life. And it doesn't matter whether it's people who love us or even the people who hate us. They're still going to call for the police. And we have to be ready for them, for their sake. And if not for us, for our families, right? We have to be a better trained police officer, whether it's all the way in New Jersey to California, for the sake of our own families, because you never know that, you're out there having a good time with your family, going to the mall, going to a movie, and, some person with very bad intention shows up, that's probably going to be your time to act,
Manny, I dig you. I dig you, man. I mean, well said. Very well said. And all the cats that we got on here, it's all been trainers. That's what I dig about it. I mean, that's the idea, right? That's the idea, right. And I'm thrilled that that old Matt Butler started this up because everyone I've talked to, they have that same mindset. But I'm gonna say you said it the best, though. You said it the best.
I don't know about that, man. I'm sure somebody else.
I'm so pissed. I got your name wrong. Gosh damn it! I said, and we got Steven on. We got Oba Babatunde. My name is Manny, man. Oh, sorry, Manny. Gosh damn.
No, it's all good. I mean, and if anybody ever wants to reach out to me or whatever, get a hold of me at.
Drop all that. Uh-huh.
Yeah. I'll give you my info. The website is guardiansonwatch.com. I noticed that if you have a Safari web browser, it'll give you the warning. Trust me, there's no virus there where I'm not gonna collect your personal data, whatever. So you're good. You're safe.
Got going on, man. I just told you I dug you, and now you got some spyware happening.
No, because I run my website every now and then to just make sure it's running. I'm the owner operator. I got to do my own social media. I'm my own receptionist and all that good stuff. So you know how it is when you run a business and you work a full-time job.
Yeah.
But guardiansonwatch.com, we offer law enforcement. We offer civilian training for private schools and corporate clients. And for law enforcement, it's anything from tactical de-escalation, tactical disengagement. In other words, fancy word for saying just walk away. The guy hasn't broken a law. The person created a radio call. You talking to him. He's just standing on a street corner yelling at the sky. He's not hurting anybody. He hasn't stabbed anybody. He's not armed with a weapon. Break away. There's no need to further engage that person.
Just because you got called to it doesn't mean you have to do something, right?
Correct.
Correct.
Right. In the old days, we got to do something. No, we don't. The fact that they're crazy, it's not against the law. They haven't broken any law. Mm-hmm. Somebody just thought they call the dispatcher. Dispatcher creates a call. They're doing their job. The person thinks that they're doing the right thing by calling the police. We show up, no crime, move on, let it go.
Remember, RPs. Most of them, they just want to be they want to be relevant, so they'll contact
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
You have so now obviously the contact information is going to be on the website, but once you shout out the phone number there and an email if there's one that you want to put out.
Yeah, yeah. I'll give you my I got 2 numbers, but I'll give you the main number I got here. What
Okay.
800-709-0253. And if you want to get a hold of me personally, it's M as in Manny, Arzate, Adam Robert, Zebra, Adam Tom Edward, right? Or if you want to do it the military,
that was it.
Mike Alpha Romeo.
That was
Zoo.
the same. That was the same.
Yeah. Or info@guardiansonwatch.com. 24/7. I usually if I'm asleep, I'll get back to you first thing in the morning. And if I'm during the day, I'll get back to you within
you mean
5
you sleep?
to 10 minutes.
You
Sometimes.
I like the way you said M for Manny, M for Obabatunde.
I'm gonna cash in on that drink.
I'm gonna give it to you. Heck, I'm gonna be in California in 3 weeks. Matter of fact, so.
Oh, nice. Let me know, man.
I'll be way north of you. I'll be north of Fresno, but.
Oh, really?
Yeah. What about socials? You got socials? Like,
yeah. So we're on Instagram, Blue Line Guardian 1, the number 1 after Blue Line Guardian. We're on LinkedIn on Blue Line Guardian. We're on Facebook. I think that's pretty much it. I mean, those are the 3 biggest. Yeah.
I mean, I don't think you have time to run anything else, man. All right. I mean, get some help.
Yeah.
But so listen, I like what you're doing, man. And I love where your head's at, because if that's how you're thinking, that's exactly what you're training. And I'm gonna extend this invitation out right now to you. So I got witnesses, whoever watches it. When something comes up, and there will be something that comes up, it feels like we have some kind of shooting every Thursday. It seems like, if something comes up and you see something in it, I invite you to, holler at me, and we will throw something in the schedule. I'll fit in the schedule so we can talk about it right now while it's on people's minds. Please do that, and I might reach out to you, especially if Mr. Ortiz from 000 gives me a holler about something, and I think, you have some insight on that. Yeah, that'd be great. Are you willing to do that for me?
Oh, absolutely.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I remember when we spoke yesterday over the phone. I mean, this guy sounds like sounds like a badass. He sounds pretty cool.
No, he has the same frame of mind that you do, and it's about, hey, let's just get him trained. You know what I mean? And
right.
And his head is the same way. It's like, hey, there is no critique. There is nothing. I'm not Monday morning quarterbacking these people. You know what I'm saying? I'm saying that if we train and we seek training and we're active about it and we humble ourselves, certain things that you see here can be avoided, because his thing was this, and I'm sure yours is also. When something goes down that we're a part of, use of force, or let's say we run into a building, active shooter, let's say, since essentially I got you as my guest, when it's all said and done, you're getting critiqued it's getting run back, right? And he's trying to make that, on top of everything else, on top of safety and everything else, he's trying to make it to where it's like do it without thinking. And that way there's less to critique, and they're going to say, hey, all they have to say is good job. You know what I mean? So I think you two will talk well together, especially if there's something that's happening and that's going on in the news. I think you guys would talk well together. I would just pretty much click the buttons, pretty much, which is pretty much what the people probably might want, especially when I get to talking,
You know what? I've had a wonderful time talking to you. It's just like, you're easy to talk to.
Like a bacon and egg sandwich. Delicious.
Delicious. With a cup of coffee.
Brother, my pleasure speaking with you, man. I will have you back. And we already talked. We're going to lock our phone numbers in there, and we're going to reach out here and there. And if I ever wind up in Cali on the south end, you'd be the first person I call. Believe that.
Oh, man, I can't wait. That'd be awesome. We can.
All right, Manny, Michael, Stephen, Ray, Joe. That's gonna be an ongoing joke, Manny. The name is Manny Azrate. Okay, and we'll get back to you again. Hey, thank you for joining us with the LEO Network. We'll be back with more podcasts. If you want to get with us, please reach out to podcast at leo-network.com. We have a lot of trainers out there. I would love to get those equipment manufacturers and get them on there and showing us these new products and holsters and cameras and so on and so forth. That'd be huge. So if you're seeing this, please reach out. And if you've sent an email before, do it again. Please do it again. And remember, and my daddy used to tell us, keep your head about you when everybody else is losing theirs, and you'll be fine. All right? Till next time, fellas, thank you. I appreciate it, Manny. Talk to you soon.
Talk to you later, brother. Take care.
All right.